The very best brushes there are made only from the tail hairs of only red, only wild, only male, only Siberian, only winter, only sable. So a brush is probably a really expensive thing, a really good one. They are theoretically called Kolinsky, and in fact, I don't know if I've ever truly seen a real Kolinsky brush. But one thing I do believe is that the names and the brands on brushes are no indication of their quality. There are some brands that are pretty consistently good, often pretty consistently expensive. The best way to buy a brush is to have access to a really good art supply store. If you don't, well, the rest of this lesson isn't for you. I suggest that you go to a friend or a teacher or even my website, Captain Watercolor, and you will find recommendations for good brushes. The really good art supply stores near me are characterized by one thing, and that is that they have a container of water somewhere in the brush area. Usually it's not obvious, but it's there. What they're doing is inviting you to test a brush. So the way you test a brush is when you pick it up, it's going to have some sort of plastic sleeve over here to protect the bristles. Remove the sleeve. But then there's going to be a temptation to bend the brush. Just resist that because the manufacturer has put into the brush an adhesive, a water-soluble adhesive, which is holding it in this beautiful shape so that it's really attractive to you and you want to buy it. What you need to do first is to put the brush in the water and just swish it around a little bit. It won't take long. There isn't a lot of adhesive in there. Just tap it along the side gently until you feel the brush soften. And once it's nice and soft, you're ready to go about testing it. The way I test a brush is to paint my hand. This is pretty simple. What I'm looking for is, first of all, that the brush forms a good point. This brush forms a fairly good point. This is definitely not a Kolinsky sable, but it is a good red sable. The brush holds its shape. The brush does spring back pretty straight, and this is a pretty good spring back for a brush. This is a pretty good brush all around. I could do a lot with this brush. I'm looking for it to hold a lot of water, and what I'm looking for, by the way, is when I touch the brush to my hand, I don't want to dump a whole puddle of water there. I just want to put a little bit. I don't want this brush emptying out. Also, I don't want the brush skipping. I want it to lay down a line of water all the way. That way I can tell whether the brush is holding a lot of water or not. If the brush passes these tests, that it holds together in one piece, that when you're careful it forms a nice point, that it holds plenty of liquid, that it just feels good and snaps back into shape, that's what I'm looking for. That's a good brush. That's the brush I would buy.